I'm here with Brother Francis Laleman. We're about to dive into the understanding of the Mangalamsutta together.
Yes, yeah. We also had agreed to give this series a title, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, we would call this series an exploration of the practice of skillful living.
Skillful living.
Skillful living. Yeah, and our intention is to make 3 installments of this. You know? And this first installment, Bhaskar, was intended to explore like what you could call the basic conditions, you know, of skillful living. So that's what we're gonna do in this particular episode. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe you could explain first. Yeah. However, did we come to this title, the exploration of the art of skillful living, and whom would this be for?
So, just to set the context, I know next to nothing about the Mangalamsutta. And when I heard you describe it when we spoke last, and I felt what you were pointing to was fine crafting the art of living skillfully. So there are ways to live in an unskillful way, and I'm speaking more in the internal journey than the external journey. Of course, the external journey is there, but more as an effect than a cause. But the internal journey of being barraged by our own thoughts and emotions, and you know, having difficulty just being alone with ourselves. If you have difficulty with other people, there might be reasons for it, but if you have difficulty with ourselves, there's a problem. So this points to unskillful living. So it sounded very much to me that you were referring to something that I care about deeply, which is to be an apprentice to life and to living skillfully. And it definitely is a journey full of very direct experiential lessons. And then you have great masters who have been on that journey, have learned a few things, and they shared with us so that we can live more skillfully. So in this setting, I do feel very much like we're reenacting the ancient Arjuna Krishna situation, where yes, I may have a few skills, but it's nothing compared to what you have. So I'm much more here as a student, a disciple, practitioner, avatar, embodiment, with a sincere intention to learn and share. And it's my greatest wish that the viewer listener can also benefit from this interchange and dialogue and learning. So that was my journey into this title of exploring skillful living.
To be honest, Bhaskar, skillful living, we are all students in this, you know. It's just maybe the Mangalamsutta that I am more familiar with than you are, but I think, or I hope to establish in this conversation of ours, that you have been very skillful in the Mangalamsutta all along. Only you just perhaps didn't know. So because it's no, but honest, huh? Because these texts, maybe as an introduction, I could share with you where and how I came to study these texts. You know, when I was young.
Yes, and also the history behind the Mangalamsutta would also be, I think, fascinating to revisit.
Yeah, I will start with how I came there.
Yes, please.
And when I was young, I started by studying Sanskrit. You know? And don't ask me why I chose to study Sanskrit. I don't know myself why I studied Sanskrit. Sanskrit came to me. You know? Anyway, I started studying Sanskrit, and then I happened to find myself in a very small field, a specialized field of what was called BHS, Buddhist Hybrid Sanskrit. So Buddhist texts written in Sanskrit. Yeah. The original Buddhist texts were written in Pali. Yeah. Pali is a written form of the language that the historical Buddha spoke. Yeah. But later, then, in order to give these texts more authority in an India that was completely driven by a Brahmanic culture, with Sanskrit as this most sacred of languages. In order to give these languages more authority, monks started translating these texts in Sanskrit. And so this was actually my field. And after I had graduated and I got my master's, I was sick and tired of reading these texts and from a philological point of view. And I wanted to live these texts, and I wanted to know, I wanted to get away from these texts and into life itself. So I looked for a teacher. And I traveled to Sri Lanka, where Theravada Buddhism exists, which is the kind of Buddhism that is closest to the original messages. And there I happened to find a master with, or a teacher, with Obegoda Dhammatilika Thera, who was the sole monk incumbent of a small hermitage in the middle of a tropical jungle. And I will never forget the day I arrived there, and immediately we became friends, but really like pals, you know. Sometimes you have this. It's a bit like you and I, Bhaskar. The first time we saw each other, both of us, I think we felt this. You sometimes feel that there's something. You don't need a text for that. And I had that with Obegoda Thera, and we started studying together, you know. And for me, this came as an eye opener, because we didn't read texts. He knew all of them by heart. And he taught me to know them by heart as well in the coming months, and a skill that I have largely forgotten since, because it's not about knowing texts by heart. It's of course it's about what they mean. But this particular text is called the Mangalamsutta. Mangala means blessing. So this is about. It's actually it's very mundane. It's very down to earth. It has nothing to do with high theories and high philosophy, and it's ever so simple. It contains a list of 38 sort of basic conditions that will permit us to lead a skillful life, or that will permit us to practice the art of living skillfully. Now, how about that? It's so interesting. It's a simple thing.
I celebrate your life less ordinary. First of all, it's remarkable that you chose to follow this path of Sanskrit, or Sanskrit found you, and you found this teacher in the middle of a tropical forest. It's such an unusual and extraordinary story, and what a wonderful connection that brought you to this deep living realization of these texts. And I understand that, I imagine that the texts were most likely translated after the Buddha passed away, and they were based on the Buddha's actual teachings, or was it another student of Buddha?
That's a very interesting thought there. Of course, the Buddhist canonical texts is large volumes. Thousands of verses have been gathered, and but it is quite easy to isolate in this whole set of texts those texts that actually constitute the original teaching. Yeah?
Yes.
Because the original teaching is simple, straightforward, yeah? And the Buddha was a historical person, you know, and he taught for 40 years. And during these 40 years, he developed his teaching, and it became more and more difficult as he went on, because people asked him questions, and he didn't have answers. He said, "I don't know." And it was like cooperative learning, you know. Each time that someone he met asked him a question about something, he said, "What could it be?" And a conversation came from that, and it was through these conversations that actually what we now understand as Buddhism, yeah, took shape. So, but these were conversations; these were oral conversations. And then, when the Buddha passed away, yeah, a group of senior monks gathered in the hills of a place which still exists in India, in the state of Bihar. Yeah, the place called Rajgir.
Rajgir, yeah.
Rajgir, yeah. Which was in those days like an important center of power. Yeah? And in the hills around that town, there were caves. Yeah? And in these caves, the whole set, the texts say there were 17,000 of them. I have been in these cages, these caves there. Yeah? I have been there. If there would have been like 700 people, that's absolute max. So the texts
probably spewing out into the land.
Yeah. Yeah. There were probably a few hundred of people who had overheard the Buddha say all this.
And they came together. Are they the Anharans, the ones who have actually achieved this a state experience as well, not just the scripture?
They were not all arhats. They were also just disciples, and even and it's known as the first Buddhist council. And they came together, and basically what they did is they exchanged stories, and when more than one when the story of one person was attested as true by someone else, and someone else, and every story that they gathered needed to have like an identity card with details. So, like for instance, at a given day, the historical Buddha was on his way from this village to that village, and he was accompanied by this, two, and Bhaskar and Francis, and all with names. Yeah, and then he came to a certain village called so and so. Yeah, and in that village he met this, and at the occasion of this, he said this, and then the text follows.
Yes.
So, and they rehearsed and they puzzled together everything that the Buddha had taught when he was alive, and they construed these teachings in such a way, in Pali, in the spoken language, but in such a way that it would be easily repeatable and rehearsable. So they created easy recitable songs.
Did they change the words? So they changed they modified it. It wasn't verbatim.
They modified them in such a way that from merely spoken language they became more easy to memorize. Because nobody could read. There was nobody could read. By the time they started writing these texts, we are a few hundred years later.
So it was an oral tradition that was memorized, and to make it easy, they had to make it rhyme. But I'm just wondering if every time you distort things, things obviously get lost in translation sometimes. So I wonder if there was an element of that. I know they took every precaution to not do that, you know, with this multiple sources of verification.
They did, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, but listen, the veracity of these teachings is even not so very important, I would say. The beauty of these texts is so, to me, so flabbergasting, you know, that whether or not the Buddha used this particular word, I don't know, you know.
So yes,
it only becomes a matter of importance if you would fundamentalistically approach these texts, but Buddhism is not at all like that. It's and you can see this in this language, that the words are all like rather and a little bit more and not too much of
like Indian cooking, a little bit of this, a little bit of this, not exact measurements, just
exactly.
a little bit of this, a pinch of this. So so I understand that.
And then they ask you how much sugar should you add to this particular. They're gonna say, you will see, you know, you feel it.
So it's a feeling, it's an intention, it's a sensory it's experience, and not so much the accuracy of the words that matter in that sense. As I think there's a Zen quote, the Zen proverb that goes, when you speak, you miss the mark. So it's not so much about the words, it's about more the intention that they point to. So we can be a little bit more loose with the words, not so tight. Okay.
So here are 38 advices describing conditions. That this is a very basic text. It's about the conditions that you need to be able to set yourself on the road. Because that's clearly the goal, and it's also said in the text. The goal is set yourself on the road. It's the practice of the art of living congenially or skillfully. And listen to the simple words that are used here. There's 38 of them. You can count if you want, but rather than count them right now, let's just go over the conditions first, and then we can see.
I'll bring it in slowly with you.
Yeah. It starts like this. Having the luxury of not needing to mingle with the fools, but rather having the opportunity to mingle occasionally with the wise, and possessing the open heart to be able to honor those who deserve honor. This, for sure, are the first 3 of the highest blessings.
Okay. Can we revisit them?
I will use a bit less words now. The first one is being able to not having to mingle with the foolish. It's like when you come home in the evening and you start scrolling your social media, and you start reading commands, and after 2 hours you suddenly realize that your evening is lost, because you have actually just been mingling with the foolish.
Fools. How fantastic. So the fool doesn't necessarily mean a person. It could be a TV show, it could be some article, it could be any company that's really not adding meaningful value.
It's where you don't get value. So you could also translate this as avoiding the company of people from whom you do not get value.
Okay, this is beautiful, powerful. Yeah, I'm obviously I'm resistant to the word. I'm resistant a bit to the word fool, because it feels a little bit of a judgmental word, you know. Who am I to say who's foolish, who's not? And there are so many different forms of intelligence. But I see it more in the way you're saying it, which is, you know, this not, you know, having the luxury to not spend time in things that are superficial, meaningless, suffering fools in terms of your state experience.
Yeah,
okay.
And that's clearly what is meant here. Yeah. And then the second one is having the occasion to mingle with the wise. Huh? So this, of course, implies the capacity of identifying the wise. It implies it. For me, it means having the capacity to identify a good book. And then having the time to spend time reading that good book.
Yeah.
Rather than spending the evening on Instagram or whatever.
Or sometimes there are books that are hyped up, but for you, it's not particularly. I've seen there have been books that are like, oh, everybody, you know, it's kind of hyped up, but when you actually read it, it's like, you know, it's not really resonating at the level you wished for, in terms of depth and meaning. And then other books that are very silent, but you pick them up and say, so there is a resonance in that selective ability.
Of course, it's not just books, Bhaskar. It's people as well. Huh?
People,
it's just being able to create time and space for you to spend with people and things that offer you value.
And I would actually,
if you don't have this ability, how unlucky are you?
Yeah, for me, I would include I always go for every day I go for a walk in our forest. This is me spending time with the wise elders. So the nature to me is another source of wise company.
Yeah, that's exactly, precisely. Having the capacity to walk among old trees. And the power of an old tree.
Oh gosh, you remind me, I was with an old tree yesterday. What a gorgeous old tree. So this is it. So that's a beautiful life to spend time. And as far as people are concerned, I make a joke that I collect cool people. You know, I'm a collector of cool people. And it's exactly that. It's people that uplift.
That's what you're doing.
That kind of meaning. And, you know, I come alive. To me, it's a sensory experience. I feel I become a better version of myself with that book, with those people in the forest, you know. So
exactly. In collecting cool people, you are living the second condition of the Mangalamsutta. As I told you, Bhaskar, you're doing all of this, you know. And then the third one is being able to honor is a bit of a weird word, but we'll have to translate that into our world. Being able to honor those who deserve honor. For me, this means being able to identify the worthy. In all circumstances, huh? Even if we listen to the less worthy, we should be able to identify the more worthy. I was thinking of that even yesterday when I read a thread on social media about vaccines and corona and lockdowns and everybody has an opinion.
Very polarizing.
Everybody has an opinion. And suppose that we would have the capacity in this mass of opinions to recognize who is actually knowledgeable enough.
Mm.
It
Oh,
would
wow.
save us so much time, you know. It would bring so much value to an evening of browsing, wouldn't it?
Yes, indeed. So this is pointing to, so worthy of reverence, notion. I mean, we know fundamentally that all sentient beings are worthy of reverence. This is, there is the, you know, the Satchitananda in all of us, you know. So there's the layers of truth here. So that layer of truth, there, you know, there is this worthiness that transcends every physical manifestation and form. But what I sense this sutra points to is where we feel the connection with wisdom, where we feel a connection with a knowledgeable teacher, to appreciate that teaching. You know, this sort of a thing. It's like you've actually made a significant, meanful, profound impact in my life, and I appreciate, I recognize that. So this kind of reverence.
Yeah, but reverence is later in the list.
Oh, is
because
reverence
is a step further. It starts with the identification. You know, it starts with here. This is very easy. Yeah? It's being able to identify, and then having the greatness of heart to acknowledge. You know,
acknowledge. Acknowledge.
And so each little group of conditions always ends with this sentence: "These, for sure, are some of the highest blessings." Yeah. So it's like a chorus, you know, that always comes back. Yeah. So this was the first verse, you know.
I'm going to attempt to summarize.
Yes.
It's the ability to minimize things that do not add value, meaningful value to our lives. The luxury and the opportunity to focus on things that add wisdom to our lives, and to the ability to notice that, to be able to observe it and acknowledge that there's a source here that adds to my ability to live more skillfully.
Good summary. Yeah. We go on with number 4. Yeah. Just being able, just having the capacity to live in a genial environment. This is a very high blessing. Yeah? And then number 5 is something that we can't do very much about, but from there onwards, from the number 6 onwards, we can do everything about it. But number 5 is just here also. What we have now, from 1 to 5, is just it's somehow what is given, you know.
Circumstantial, yes.
Yeah, it's circumstantial. Yeah, yeah. So 4 is being able to live in a genial environment, and 5 is being able to live on merits that come with you by birth. Maybe by inheritance, maybe by karma. Yeah, it means having the luck that you have certain talents and merits. You know, these are basic strokes of luck, yeah, that will help you to ease your path henceforth. You know? So to live in a genial environment, yeah, to possess merits acquired from the past, to set yourself in the right course, the right direction. This, for sure, are 3 more of the highest blessings.
Let's revisit them again. So if you could just summarize again, maybe you can reiterate the first three, the 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah, 4 is about the environment.
Environment, congenial environment.
The environment is good for you. Yeah, and 5 is about the past. What you get from the past, from your inheritance, from your birth, is also good for you. Yeah. So if you have the luck of being in such a good position, it will be easy to go over to number 6, which is setting yourself on the path.
On the path. So let's revisit this.
The idea is, Bhaskar, I'm sorry. The idea is that in the Buddhist tradition, the Buddha was often approached by people who wanted to follow him, and because they had left their families, or because they were unable to provide for themselves a living, or because they were outlaws or school dropouts, or and the historical Buddha absolutely wanted to avoid that people would follow his teachings or follow his group of disciples and practice his teachings merely as a way out of the troubles they had. And the message is, first solve your mess. First solve your mess, So if you're not able to, if you don't have the means to live in a genial environment, first sort this out.
So what I'm hearing there is that there's a couple of things. One is that what is a genial environment for me might not be for somebody else. So what's a genial environment for Mahatma Gandhi will be very different to a LeBron James or a Bill Gates or whatever. So we all have, so an environment that's conducive to who you are is one. And the second nuance I'm picking up on, because I do have certain clients who are having a difficult time right now. They're not in a particularly genial environment. Because of this lockdown, they're stuck with people they don't necessarily get along with. They have, so the external world is in dissonance with who they are just by the circumstance. Yet there is a way to set the internal environment of geniality. At least inside, you can have a peaceful. Although outside. And they do certainly go hand in hand, but there's sometimes very little you can do about the outside, because you can't change people, as anybody above 40 knows. You cannot change people. So then it's really about changing our experience in how we encounter the people, and making that inner dimension more skillful, if the external dimension for however long seems to be
I absolutely love what you say, Bhaskar. Because this is also how I understand these lines. This genial environment, you need to make it. And if it is not out there, we as human beings, we are able to genialize our environments. From whichever perspective you are looking at. People, we have in the first condition talked about that weird word, the foolish. Let's say the unable. Those who are unable. Those who are unable are not lack the power to separate themselves and their own genial environment from external conditions that they cannot control. So this is a preliminary message that the Buddha is giving to us. First make this right. Start with this. Embrace your environment and turn it into a genial environment, whatever it is. It's about embracing what you cannot control. It's in modern business language. It could be said as embracing change. Embrace the now. If you want to go thither, start by embracing the here.
Embracing the here, yeah. As the saying goes,
This
suffering
is
is
the
resistance. Yeah, suffering is resistance to what is. So this is about not resisting what is. And I like Bruce Lee's quote around this. He says, "Be like water, my friend." So this notion of adapting to a circumstance and having the ability to adapt to a circumstance and still maintain your flow. And you know, it's challenging for sure. This is especially nowadays with what we're going through, this prolonged, you know, fed upness, and there we are, the fertile ground for practice. How can I flow with even this?
We cannot go thither if we don't embrace the now. This is the basic message here. Yeah, very important message.
Very, very important. Yes.
Yeah.
So our best intentions is set an environment where we don't feel stuck, where we feel that flow of congeniality. And the second one about our gifts, you know, as you mentioned, these are maybe gifts we develop in this incarnation. There could have been gifts handed down, ancestral gifts, you know, karmic, maybe even. For example, why were you interested in going to a remote tropical jungles to learn this? That is a serendipity, you know, of your ancestral gifts leading to that experience where your neighbor had a very different experience. So there's uniqueness there for sure of these gifts that we have. Some people are excellent musicians, carpenters, gardeners, whatever it might be, orators. So I guess this points to taking stock of those merits, and not with a sense of you know, pride or bravado or even humility. That's irrelevant. It's just there it is. You know, there's a gift, and how can we best utilize this to serve humanity or to serve sentient beings?
Yes, and your last sentence is the sixth blessing. Yeah? It's the assessment that there is a gift, and the assessment is then inherently followed by the drive to go forward, you know, to do something with what is being assessed.
So I often encounter people who feel that they don't have a gift. I don't know if you've experienced this. I don't know what my gift is, and it's like a fish saying, "I don't know what water is." From the outside looking in, very often their gifts are quite apparent, and it's not always an external skill. It could be an internal thing, like incredible compassion, incredible generosity, or honesty, patience.
Yeah, we do have gifts. What we often lack is the possibility to assess them. Yeah. Yeah, and let's not forget that this text, the Mangalamsutta, describes conditions of blessing. It's not like a to-do list. They are not imperatives. It's not a list of do this and do that. It's a list of, if this condition is fulfilled, then you're lucky. Then you can go to the next one.
Okay.
So you have to read it like this. Huh?
Very good.
It's not a to-do list. Huh?
Very well said. Yes.
But if you have fulfilled the idea that you live in a genial environment, you can embrace your environment and turn it into something which is genial for you. If you have acknowledged that you are blessed with talents and gifts that have come with you by birth, and if you are able to, from this assessment, get into motion and make something of it, well, then you possess, for sure, you possess the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth of the 38
I can imagine there's more, but that seems very complete to me already. That seems very complete.
Well,
Wonderful. Okay.
now it becomes very word by word like.
Okay.
You know. Erudition. Skill. Technical skills. Let's say erudition, more mental, and technical skills. Um, having restraint, being open to discipline and training, and having the gift of mellifluousness, of soft-spokenness. Yeah? So, erudition, skill, well-groomed discipline, and words pleasantly spoken. These are 4 more of the highest blessings.
Ooh, powerful. So I'm feeling speech, will, heart, and yeah, it was erudite, which is well, it's mind really, which is a subtle version of speech. The discipline is it is some sort of a will. Will might not be the right way. It's more of a almost. I don't see it as will. It's more willingness. Willingness. Yes.
Yeah. Resolve.
Resolve. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I resolve to do this properly. This sort of a willingness. And the word next one was those before. What was the next one?
And then words pleasantly spoken.
That's
so
right.
Clearly these are 3: erudition, skill, and discipline. This is the mind, the hands,
skill,
and resolve.
Skill, yes.
And then starts a new series. I think words pleasantly spoken. If you have the talent to only say words that do not harm, something like that.
So this is yes. So
soft-spoken.
Erudite is clarity of speech and mind. Skill is naturally physical ability, tactile skills, motor neuron control and so on. And then then this compassion, the ability to speak kindly. And there's that might be a little confusing for many people, perhaps myself as well, because we get in situations sometimes where hard language we feel is necessary or sometimes we all want to have. I have a challenge with this, honestly. I love to have pleasant, uplifting conversations, and when it comes to confrontation and or standing up for oneself, or standing up for a mighty purpose, and standing up to the bully kind of a thing, that's not my strong suit. I tend to avoid those kind of conversations. So I'm wondering, sometimes that you are dancing is not even the right word. You are honoring truth and kindness, and that could be challenging sometimes.
It's challenging. It certainly is. But words not pleasantly spoken, for me, break down erudition, skill,
Certainly
and
does.
resolve.
Yes, absolutely.
I can have a discussion with you, and you're erudite, and you're skillful, and you show me your resolve. But if you keep calling a certain group of people idiots, in our times and age, it will be idiots.
Oh my gosh! It hurts
then
so
it
much.
breaks down everything.
Absolutely.
It brings to ruin your whole discourse.
I must say that I'm really feeling the sadness of that when I see sometimes my social media feeds, and I see the mean-spiritedness of some of the comments, or maybe even cynicism, sarcasm, and that are intended to belittle or ridicule. That's just causing more divide, more separation. It's not convincing anybody. So when we go down that road of of speaking unkindly, it doesn't lead anywhere
No,
meaningful,
exactly.
helpful.
Yeah. Then you might be as erudite and skillful as you want.
Oh, for sure. Some of these people are very erudite. They are very skillful
It's,
in
yeah,
condescending people.
It breaks
Yeah.
that. So I stopped following people when I come across these kind of things. You know, I just do not want to mingle with them, and then we're back with the top of the blessings. You know?
So there we are. So this one is
Yeah.
a conscious action.
It's a conscious
choosing.
action. Yeah. Yeah. And now it becomes more conscious and more practical as we proceed. You know?
Yes, because
Shall we go on?
as you give your attention to, you become. And I find that if I was to give my attention to this, the one takes on a polarized stance. You know, you kind of harden each other. Oh, when I feel insulted, well, I become tight. Oh, you're insulting me, I'm going to insult you back.
Sure.
Yeah. So, my dear Francis, I think we've covered a lot. We've covered 9. There's a lot there. Perhaps we can maybe even bend back and reflect on what these 9 sutras mean for you and me.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I feel inspired to practice, not in terms of doingness, but in terms of awareness. You know, so much of this, there's so much there. As I mentioned earlier, that it seems complete in the first 9 almost. I wonder what the rest of them are. There's so much. If you just do this, not do this, if you just recognize these blessings, and I find that it's not really a question of whether we are blessed with it. The more fundamental to that is really just recognizing that we are blessed with this, each and every one of us, in our own unique ways. You know, so this also this notion of having our own intellectual, compassion, skillful capabilities to manifest that gift. So it's not just about having the gift. The gift to me feels like a rough diamond. There's still a process of polishing it for most of us, and then the process of offering it, which is the path, in the most sincere, loving, and heartful way. That may this benefit you. May this gift that was just given to me benefit you. So that was my big takeaway. And then also this notion of minimizing distractions, minimizing things that have little to low value. I have an obsessive personality. If you give me a bone to chew on, I'll chew on it for a very long time. And not all these bones are wholesome. So pick my bones wisely. And also, I know what has helped me a lot in this time is being in uplifting company, such as this conversation, and being in groups to feel that sense of support. So that wise company is something else I really appreciate, and I will bring more awareness to that, to seek conversations that I leave feeling lighter, more expansive, just as I mentioned, a better version of who I am, and to seek out those opportunities. I think these suttas help me realign with those intentions.
Yeah, me too. What I am particularly taken by is the practicality of it all. It's like a laundry list, but it's so practical, and it is built up so nicely. It starts with the right thing, and then I can see that once the first condition is fulfilled, you can easily move on to the second, and it's like a program. Yeah, it's at the same time a laundry list and a program, and I like the down to earthness of it. And when I add the practicality and then down to earthness, I think of its usability in business contexts, with leaders, with managers, this has nothing to do with religion, you know. This is just basically what we discussed. It's basically the art of having a skillful life, you know?
That's it.
And it serves us as human beings. And then when if you would, I will send you a sung version of this in Bali, and then you will completely fall for it then.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I know. I understand that this is something that includes and transcends all religions and all social contexts and all genders, ages. It's very, very complete. And I imagine myself actually having I'm a very visual person. I may even have them printed out. So if ever I'm in dissonance, I go, oh yeah, that one's out of line. It might be helpful to have that laundry list on my wall. So that's very good, very good. Let's land for today, and we meet again tomorrow morning for another deep dive into this beautiful theme.
Yeah. Okay. Shall I end by just reading it all through?
Oh, it'd be so beautiful.
Including the parts that we didn't discuss?
Well, perhaps just, would it be possible maybe just the first 9 that we covered?
Okay.
Oh, we've covered, yes, or whatever you feel like. Yes.
Yeah, we've covered 10.
10, we've covered 10.
Yeah. Okay, but maybe I will go on, and then we can. So, not with the foolish to mingle, but being able to mingle with wise and wisdom, and being able to honor whatever deserves to be honored. This for sure is the highest blessing. Having the facility to live in a genial environment and to embrace that, and possessing merits from the past and to acknowledge these and assess these, and from there being able to set yourself in motion on the right course. This for sure is the highest blessing. Erudition, technical skills, having resolve and restraint, and practicing nothing but words that are pleasantly spoken. For sure, these are the highest blessings. Being able to tend for your parents, being able to care for wife and children, being untangled by professional obligations all the time. These for sure are some of the highest blessings. Being generous, being righteous in conduct, cherishing people as if they were your relatives, being engaged always in faultless and blameless action. These for sure are some of the highest blessings. Being able to shun and to abstain from deeds that cause harm. Being restrained in the use of whatever products that make you into less of you. Being heedful in the practice of virtue. This for sure is the highest blessing. Having dignity, having humility, being contented, practicing gratitude, having the ability to listen every now and then to some valuable speakers, this for sure is the highest blessing. Being patient, being courteous, seeking the company of really wise people and participating in their discussions from time to time, surely these must be the highest blessings. And if you can get there, austerity, leading a holy life, completely understanding that everything is suffering, but there is a way out of it. Attaining the bliss of nirvana, this for sure is the very highest blessing. And then, with a mind unruffled when touched by worldly happenings, completely free from pain and from passion, and completely secure, this for sure is the highest blessing. And acting in such ways as the above conditions permit you will make you undefeated in every front and will help you achieve happiness everywhere and for every sentient being. And this is very much the very highest blessing. Mangalamsutta.
This is wonderful that you've had it in one, so people, the viewer listener can re-listen to it, revisit it as they wish to, when they wish to. And I do look forward to diving deep into the remaining suttas with you tomorrow. There's so much fertile ground there for dialogue and practice.
See you tomorrow, Bhaskar.
Thank you.